7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's now time for the Pony Cake Sports Podcast with your hosts, Josh Stevens, Tim Thompson, and Tom Schultz. Woo!
Hey there, everybody. We are back with another episode, and as always, I'm joined here by Tom. Tom, how's it going?
Fantastic, Joshua. It's good to be back in the Pony Cake Studios talking some fantasy football.
As always, again, no Tim Thompson this week. He is out, lacerated kidney. He is out for a while. But yeah, he actually fell off the roof that he was helping fix.
He's been doing this for a long time, but he's also been playing fantasy a long time, and he's still bad at that, so I guess I could understand. He's just kind of cursed, Josh.
Very true, very true. Tom, what are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about some of our must-starts in fantasy football at the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end positions, Joshua.
Very true. Let's go ahead and start it off. Let's go with quarterback. Tom, any of these matchups really sticking out to you where you're like, you know what? I need this guy to start this week, and I need him to put up some points.
There's a couple juicy ones, Josh. The first one I really want to talk about is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons. I think a guy who's going to be a must-start this week is a guy who will be having his first start of the season, Mr. Jameis Winston, right now on DraftKings. He is $5,800, which is extremely cheap, facing the Atlanta Falcons, who have just been getting torched by quarterbacks. Right now, they've been giving up the 29th most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, and that's including the Week 1 game against the Eagles, where they only gave up 5.8 points to quarterbacks. So the last 4 weeks, they've been getting torched. They lost both starting safeties, lost starting linebacker. The passing lanes right now are just wide open against the Atlanta Falcons. I really think Jameis Winston is going to have a chance to throw the football a lot in this game, because I think the Falcons will be able to pass the football against that Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary as well. But I think Jameis Winston, at his price tag, is just a perfect start this week. In most leagues, he's probably on your waiver wire as well. And we've seen the weapons on this team, what they've been able to do with a Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think Jameis Winston's a better overall quarterback. Yeah, he will give you some crazy turnovers here and there, but I think Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Deshaun Jackson, Cameron Brate are good enough to get the job done, and I'm really expecting Jameis Winston to have over 300 yards and 3+ touchdowns in this game.
Oh man, fair enough. I actually like Jameis Winston daily purposes wise. Yeah. I think that there's going to be a lot of points in that game between them and the Atlanta Falcons. I think the same can be said for Matt Ryan as well, starting him this week as well. Obviously, in daily, his point total will be quite a bit higher because it is Matt Ryan compared to Jameis Winston. One guy that I am going to go with, and this is if you're looking for there are two teams on bye this week. If you're looking for a bye week filler, you could look at like a Baker Mayfield against the Chargers. The Chargers have been 23rd against opposing quarterbacks. They've been good for the last 2 weeks. You look at what the Chargers did against Oakland. They only let up 268 yards passing and a touchdown the week before, 298 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. But I could see this game, and I know that we're opposite sides of the spectrum on the score on this game. I like this game to be quite a few points. Like I said in my prediction episode, I could see like a 38-31 game, and I really think that we could definitely see Baker Mayfield put up quite a few points. So I'm gonna go with Baker Mayfield as one of my guys. The only thing that's really crappy about the Baker Mayfield pick is going to be Rashard Higgins being out. If Higgins was in, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with that.
And Baker, if he's still on your waiver wire, people, you need to be targeting him. Personally, me and Josh are different spectrums on this week against the Chargers, but the following weeks, at Tampa Bay, at Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Atlanta. Good Lord, it doesn't get much better than that. Yeah. He's a guy that can get you or help you get 4 wins right there. He's going to be putting up big numbers. So if he's on your waiver wire, get him in your lineup right now. My second guy that I'm going to be looking at a lot, especially in cash games on DraftKings and FanDuel, is going to be Jared Goff this week. On DraftKings, he's $6,000, which is pretty cheap. That's kind of the spot where I look to go for a quarterback. The top-tier quarterbacks are closer to $7,000, so that's saving you almost $1,000 off the big-time guys. He's facing the Denver Broncos. This year, they're currently 20th against quarterbacks right now for fantasy points, so teams have been able to beat them. It's going to... with how many lineups I put him in, it might vary depending on where Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks are trending at. But I have a feeling Cooper Kupp will at least play, and you still got Robert Woods, Todd Gurley. Goff is going to be passing the football. And the good thing with the Rams, they're a very good football team, but no matter what, they're always passing the football. Even if they are up by 20 points, Jared Goff is in there still slinging the rock. That's how Sean McVay coaches. He believes in this team. He believes in his quarterback. Jared Goff right now, I believe he's 4th or 5th overall in the quarterback scoring, which is very good. I think he's a safe play, and I think his price tag is worth being played right now in daily.
Yeah, fair enough with Jared Goff. I think it kind of depends on where, like you said, where Woods is and Cooper Kupp, if he's fully healthy or not. But even still, they got like a Josh Reynolds there. They still have other weapons that can still catch the ball. And even still, you look at like a Todd Gurley, he catches the ball in the backfield just as good as anybody else does. So I'd feel extremely comfortable with Goff there. My other quarterback that is a must start this week is going to be Cam Newton against the Washington Redskins. We just saw what Drew Brees did against Washington. And Washington normally, the first 2 weeks, pretty good against the pass. Against Arizona, they only let up 153 yards passing, then 180 yards passing, but then 2 touchdowns. So 2 touchdowns in week number 2, two touchdowns in week number 3, had their bye week 4, then let up 363 to Drew Brees and 3 touchdowns for 35.7 points. Also, obviously, that includes the rushing touchdown by Taysom Hill. But I think that Cam Newton can definitely put up those numbers.
Cam's been putting up good numbers this year, Josh.
It's QB 14 right now.
And that's with a bye week already.
Yeah.
So that is tremendous. You have to like the floor that he gives you just with his rushing ability. And he hasn't really been finding the end zone too much, running the football. It's going to happen. He's going to have one of those blow-up games. He's already had 2 of them, and he's had 2 sub-20-point games as well. But every time so far this year he's had a sub-20-point game, he followed that up with a 30-point game. So you got to like that. I like Cam Newton a lot this week as well. Good call.
Moving on, running backs, my friend.
My first guy is going to be Mr. Sony Michel for the New England Patriots.
Hey, we might as well just do mine too, because mine is going to be running back mate James White.
All right, so we both, first of all, this game, so far, I believe the over-under, or the total points is close to
like
6.
75.
Which is great. That's what you want in these fantasy football games. And we've seen that this offense can produce 2 good running backs, and I don't think that's going to change. I think Sony Michel brings that balance. He's that guy that's going to give you 15 to 20 rushing attempts. James White is that guy that's going to give you 7 to 10 targets in the receiving game, which is fantastic in PPR. I just think Sony Michel running the football, he's got a good chance finding the end zone. He is playing that Dion Lewis role, which is fantastic in this offense. He's only $5,800 on DraftKings, which is a good value. If you need to save a little bit of money at the running back spot, plug him in, and you could pay up at the receiver spot a little bit.
Yeah, Sony Michel is obviously a little bit of the safer pick running back wise, because he is going to be that guy getting that 15 to 20 touches rushing the ball alone, not even his touches out of the backfield receiving the ball. James White is purely the receiving running back, and I think last week he had around 14 targets caught. I believe it was like 10 balls thrown his way, if not more than that. And James White, I think, will be another factor in the receiving game, catching the ball out of the backfield. We may even see him out in the slot a little bit. I really like James White, kind of like what you said with Sony Michel. James White's same thing. Kansas City's 31st against the opposing running backs in fantasy right now.
They're both going to eat this week.
Yeah, they're both going to have great games. I could see them both. I could see Sony having like in a full point PPR type league. I could see him having I don't know, somewhere between like 16, 18 points. And I could see James White having, if it's full point PPR, maybe 6 catches, maybe like 70 yards. See something like that. You got another running back?
I'm going to go 2 here, Josh. Okay. And, this is kind of no-brainer for season-long leagues, but Todd Gurley and Melvin Gordon. Right now, these 2 are the most expensive running backs in daily fantasy football. But I'm telling you, especially in cash games this week, pay up for these guys. Look, Todd Gurley especially, a lot of people all over Twitter and different chats saying you can't play him this week. He's $10,000, which is a fifth of your total budget, which is a lot of money on DraftKings. But you still got to play this guy.
Everybody else is going to.
Just look what he has been doing. Some people will shy away a little bit, but he's got that potential to score 2 to 3 touchdowns every week. 31 points last year or last week, half-point PPR. You're starting this dude in cash games. He's helping you get to that cash line, and that is what is important. That the floor that he gives you every week is just tremendous. And especially if Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp are out, they're going to be relying on Gurley that much more. I think you have to rely on him. And Melvin Gordon, I think this game's going to be kind of a low-scoring game where both defenses are playing well, kind of running the football. It's closer, even if it's a shootout close. That helps Melvin Gordon as well. But I just like how they have been featuring him in this offense. He's pretty much been scoring a touchdown each week, over 20 points almost every week. They're using him in the receiving department. Melvin Gordon, Todd Gurley, lock them in your cash game lineups this week.
I'm going to ask you a question here because obviously Melvin Gordon and Todd Gurley are high priced for the most part. Would you take a running back, like say if Sonny Michel is a little bit out of your price range, a running back like Mike Davis, and throw him in there?
Not really. If you're playing like in one of the big tournaments, possibly. But when you're playing those cash games, the 50-50s, the double-ups, the triple-ups, you want these stud running backs in there that just give you that high floor where you're more likely to reach that plateau of the scoring line.
Fair enough. My other pick at running back is going to be James Conner. We saw what he did last week, 21 rushes for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. The week before was kind of a dud against the Baltimore Ravens, but obviously the Baltimore Ravens defense is a little bit better than the Atlanta Falcons. James Conner had 34.5 points last week. He's facing the Cincinnati Bengals this week. Cincinnati is 21st against opposing running backs. Last week for the Miami Dolphins, gave up 19 rushes for 111 yards, but gave up a huge amount of yards in the receiving game. And that's what James Conner does pretty well. So we saw Kenyon Drake had like 6 or 7 catches for about 70-something yards. I could see something like that with James Conner this week, and I like this matchup against the Bengals.
I hope not, because in our main league, Josh, I'm facing James Conner. I hope he disappoints, but I agree with you. Everything's set up for him to have a big-time week and for him to score a lot of points again. Hopefully the Steelers fall down early, and hopefully they forget to use him like they used him last week and how successful that was. We'll see. Great start right there, Josh.
Wide receiver, sir.
My first one, it's going to be Mr. Chris Godwin, kind of piggybacking off of that matchup with the Atlanta Falcons and Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. And DraftKings, he's only $4,400, super cheap, facing the Falcons secondary, who's giving up the 28th most points in fantasy football per week to receivers. The last 3 weeks in half-point PPR, 49 points to receivers for the Panthers, 39-2 to the Saints, 45-6 to the Bengals, and 37-5 to the Steelers. That's a lot of fantasy points to wide receivers, and that's not even full-point PPR leagues. I love all the receivers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week, but the best value right now is Chris Godwin. He's almost a lock for cash lineups. He's just the price tag of $4,400, and you're able just to fit in those stud running backs that I was talking about earlier because of a player like Godwin. If he gets 10 to 15 points, you're looking good, and I think he's got that potential to score 2 touchdowns in this game.
I agree with you. I have Deshaun Jackson in one of my leagues. Shockingly, I have not gotten Chris Godwin in any of my leagues. Feel like everybody was listening to us when we were talking about Chris Godwin, and they gobbled him up early. But play your Tampa Bay Buccaneer wide receivers. It's a juicy matchup overall. My first wide receiver that I'm going to talk about is going to be somebody that you don't think is going to break the 100-yard mark, Mr. Adam Thielen. I feel like I've talked about him every single week as my must start. 5 weeks now in a row with 100-yard games or more.
Nuts. Absolutely nuts.
It's absolutely crazy. He is wide receiver number 1 in PPR formats. Absolutely crazy to think about that as well. He is averaging 24.8 points fantasy-wise a game. He is facing the Arizona Cardinals defense, who ranks number 4 against wide receivers, have only let up 1 receiving touchdown to wide receivers. This is a matchup that Adam Thielen should not thrive in. Mm-hmm. But I'm going with Adam Thielen. I have faith. I think that he's going to do well. And actually, if you even look at all the receptions, 8 receptions, 19, 14, 13, 18, those are all per game that the Arizona Cardinals have given up. Not a lot of receptions overall. I just think Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs are going to have both big games regardless of this defense and how well it's been playing.
I do not agree with you, Joshua.
It's all good.
But I'm kind of picking a guy in the next line, or in my next receiver, who's facing a defense who's been limiting wide receivers. It's going to be Keke Coutee for the Houston Texans. Right now, 4,600 on DraftKings. He's only been in the NFL, or been playing 2 weeks for the Texans right now. First week against the Colts, 11 catches on 15 targets. Last week against Cowboys, 6 catches, 7 targets. But you brought up how defense has been playing. The Bills 6th against wide receivers. They've haven't given up a touchdown since week 2 to the Chargers to a wide receiver. So it's been 3 straight weeks, and that was playing the Minnesota Vikings. That's your guy, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, good receivers. The following week was against the Green Bay Packers with Devontae Adams. He's an absolute stud, and Tennessee, Corey Davis is what it is. My thinking in this is Tre'Davious White, fantastic cornerback. He's been a guy who's been shadowing teams' number 1 wideouts.
Agreed.
So obviously he has to be he should be shadowing DeAndre Hopkins. That should leave a lot of opportunity for Keke. I'm hoping that hamstring is still limiting Will Fuller, and if that's the case, I think Keke has a chance to 7 to 10 catches again, even if it's 70 to 80 yards. He hits his value if he has a stat line similar to that. We've seen him being used in the red zone with that little new pop pass. That's the new thing in the NFL right now. But he's my guy right now, and I'll probably be starting him in a lot of cash lineups.
Yeah, I like Keke. It's actually a guy in one of our not our main league, but in a league that the Sleeper Wire League, where it's got a lot of the pros from ESPN, from CBS, from who else is on there? NFL Network, all those guys on there. I picked up Keke 3 weeks ago. So the week
done, baby.
Yeah, the week before that he blew up, and in our main league, I was gonna pick him up the day before that he blew up, and I picked up somebody else instead, and then he blew up, and because I'm 5-0 now, I can't get anybody on waivers, so it is what it is. But I do enjoy Keke. He's getting a majority of the targets, and maybe it is the hamstring issue to Will Fuller that is forcing the ball going to Keke. But he did have, I believe, 7 or 8 targets thrown his way this past week. So he's getting targets.
Yep.
I don't mind the pick at all. My second wide receiver is going to be wide receiver Tyler Lockett for the Seattle Seahawks. He's had some pretty good weeks back to back. He faces the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders are 25th against the pass. Last week they did not give a receiving touchdown to a wide receiver, but this kind of reminds me of a game where it could be a game like the Miami Dolphins, where they give up 3 or 4 touchdowns. I do know this game is going to be, this is the overseas game, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
So we'll see how this goes. But Russell Wilson, he's a showman. He wants to throw the ball around, especially being out of the country. I like Tyler Lockett and his chances this week.
He's kind of not labeled, but made himself the number 1 there. Look, Doug Baldwin doesn't really look healthy, in all honesty. Only 1 target last week, had 1 catch for 1 yard. That sucked. Started him a lot last week. Not good, but Lockett has been good. He's gotten paid by the Seahawks team. They believe in him. I think it might be clear to say he's putting that flag down, saying that he's that number 1 option for Russell Wilson, a very explosive athlete. I like him a lot this week as well, Josh. Hopefully the volume can be there. We saw last week that they they prefer to run the football as much as
yeah.
possible, but hopefully the Raiders can get up early and that Russell Wilson is forced to sling the ball around, because then Tyler Lockett will completely hit his value.
Agreed. Moving on, Tom, tight end.
My guy's going to be CJ Uzoma. I think that's how you pronounce it for the Bengals. With Tyler Eifert being out, we saw CJ kind of come in last week and be the number one guy for the Bengals. Only had 2 catches, 43 yards. But the Steelers, they've been getting torched by tight ends this year. We saw last week with Austin Hooper, had that monster game against them. And CJ, he ran a route on 78% of his snaps last week. That's good. That's what you want out of your tight ends. Hopefully his usage will go up a little bit. I think it's going to this week, especially in daily. He's super cheap. One of the cheaper options. Put him in your lineup and you'll be looking good. Only $3,000 on DraftKings.
Yeah, he is facing the Pittsburgh Steelers, and one of the tight ends that we told you guys to play, or at least I did. Tim said don't. Was Austin Hooper, because he was playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if you looked at the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were atrocious against tight ends, 31st against them, and that was the reason why. But
good call, Josh.
Thank you, I appreciate it. But yeah, that was one of my main reasons why I did that. I thought it made sense. One guy that I kind of like this week is, again, Austin Hooper. I know it's not a very great matchup for him with the tight end position, but Tampa Bay is just awful.
I'm shocked you didn't say your boy.
Who's that?
Cam Brate.
Cameron Brate is up there. Actually, I was talking with, who was it? Mike, right? Because he's got Cameron Brate. Cameron Brate is an option as well. With OJ Howard out, it makes tons of sense. Actually, honestly, that may be one that you should start because Jameis Winston's back.
Yep.
Jameis Winston's best friend is Cameron Brate and Adam Humphries. 2 white guys who, whatever. But Cameron Brate is before the break, he did score a touchdown. So Cameron Brate is an option. Austin Hooper again this week, though, I do like as well. Anything else?
I feel pretty comfortable.
All right.
Glad Tim's not here.
Yeah.
Give people bad advice. Tell him not to start Austin Hooper when he was a great start last week.
Oh, Tim and his advice. Question for you real quick.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do this. Would you rather? Let's go Cam Newton or Jared Goff?
If all the receivers are there for Goff, I'm going Goff.
Okay.
If not, I'll probably lean towards Cam and probably replace him or replace Goff in my cash lineups with Cam.
Fair enough. Let's go with Jameis or Carson Wentz.
Jameis Winston.
Let's do James Conner or Joe Mixon.
I'm gonna go Joe Mixon this week. Both similarly priced in daily fantasy this week, but I love Joe Mixon, man.
Yeah.
He's my guy, one of my favorite players in the NFL right now. I think they're both quality matchups, but I'm gonna go with Mixon.
Adam Thielen or Tyler Lockett?
Gotta go Thielen. I don't think he's gonna have 100 yards, but I probably get close. Probably still get 5 to 7 catches and still have a quality PPR game.
Keenan Allen or Jarvis Landry? They play each other.
Give me Jarvis this week.
All right, fair enough. Anything else, man?
That's all I got. I'm good.
All right, cool.
Hoping this Thursday night game's super low scoring and OBJ doesn't do anything.
I'm hoping the same thing. So, hope you guys enjoy this episode of who you should start, must starts of the week. Do yourselves a favor, check out the episode that we just posted, which is our Week 5 recap and Week 6 predictions, and then who you should sit for the week coming up. So if you guys have any questions, hit us up on Twitter at pony_keg_Tom, at FightTalkTim, and at PonyKegSports. Email us any questions, ponyKegSports@gmail.com. And until next time.